What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the only stock I am putting my net new capital into, and a lot of people are going to get very angry about this video when they see it, but it's just simply what I'm doing. This is not financial advice, and I am not telling you to follow in my steps. This is just something that I am going to do because of my age and my risk profile. So let's get into it. MSTR, MicroStrategy, the company that isn't really a company, is the only thing I'm going to be buying for the foreseeable future, as it's under $100, because I just see there's way too much upside, and people don't understand. They have the most complex capital structure in the entire stock market. There is not a single company that has a more complex capital structure than MicroStrategy, and yet people are coming out of the woodworks. I literally argued with someone on Twitter yesterday talking about, oh, they're gonna get liquidated. They're about to be liquidated within the next week. They simply cannot be liquidated on their 80,000 Bitcoin. They cannot be liquidated on it. The senior notes only account for about, I think, 200,000 Bitcoin. So you're still net positive Bitcoin exposure per share right now, and the MNAV, the regular MNAV is below 1. It's at like 0.8, but the CEBE MNAV is still at like a 13% or like a 11% premium, so it's at like 1.11. And even then, if that goes lower, it's an even better buying opportunity. People don't understand. 2022, MSTR should have died. They had negative Bitcoin exposure per share. They had like negative 1,000 Bitcoin per share. Like, you were literally buying the stock just to have less exposure to Bitcoin somehow. And they recovered and set new all-time highs. So all you have to do is consider the fact that unless Bitcoin goes down and stays down for the next like 2.5 years, and it has the first ever time in Bitcoin's history, it has 4 flat/down years in a row, that is when I think MSTR will collapse and or just not be able to recover as well. But as of right now, I think it is a great buying opportunity under 100, simply because of the fact that they're the highest institutional or like company Bitcoin holder, and they're essentially a leveraged bet on Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin personally. I have a cold wallet that has Bitcoin in it. I can see the future of Bitcoin. I can't see the future, but I can see the thesis for it. And it's a no-brainer right now. It's crazy how many Bitcoiners hate on it and say it's a Ponzi scheme. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. And I wouldn't really say it's a Ponzi scheme just due to the fact that everybody knows, if you're buying Stretch, everybody knows the reason I'm getting this yield is because other people are buying Stretch and they're buying Bitcoin with my money. So you just got to keep that into consideration. And here's the whole thesis I have here. A company with 40 something odd billion in Bitcoin still at like a 30 odd billion market cap. Obviously, it's because some of their Bitcoin is tied up to the notes, but a lot of their debt is convertible. They have, at current prices, they would only have to dilute 0.5% a month to keep paying the Stretch dividend. And that sounds like a lot, but 6% a year really isn't that much if you think about how the capital structure of this stock has gone. It should have already collapsed 5 times over if you're going to be talking about dilution and stuff like that. They've diluted 4 times, 4 major dilutions, and a lot of their major debt isn't due until 2028, 2030. So you're literally, if you think MSTR is going to zero or they can't get liquidated, they don't have anything on margin, so there's no margin call risk. But if you think the only way they sell Bitcoin is if Saylor decides to sell Bitcoin, which after he sold like 32 Bitcoin, he seemed like he hurt himself. So I highly doubt that. I think the lawsuits will probably fall through that are going against him for how he advertised. It was very sketchy how he advertised the Stretch product. He shouldn't have said that it is a money market fund with no volatility. And then today on Twitter he said, well, of course with the asset like this there will be volatility. Yeah, but you can't say beforehand that there is none. But he did have a very large, he can turn off the dividend, he won't, but he can turn off the dividend, he can pause it, and he'll just owe the money back later for however long he has it paused. I don't think he's gonna do that. It just sounds so detrimental to everything they're trying to work on and build. So that's not gonna happen. But there's so much flexibility with the preferreds he has. I think there is a chance of more volatility in MSTR. The stock may even go down to 40s, 50s. I have barely any capital right now. I'm shoveling it as much as I can into MSTR, all net new capital. Obviously I'm still going to be buying S&P and NASDAQ in my retirement, but as far as buying stuff in my brokerage account, that's instead of I'll talk about some of my other holdings later on, but technically my most money I have in any company on my Fidelity account is Google, but I'm not going to be putting any more into Google as of right now. I'm going to be purely focusing on MSTR under $100 because I will just continue to average down underneath 100, whether it goes to 50, 60, 70, or if it goes straight back up over 100. I will continue averaging into it because the simple fact that if they can get to over 1 million Bitcoin and Bitcoin recovers to, new all-time highs within next year, they will be in a very, very attractive spot to be an investor in that company. Think about last time when they went through this. They should have been gone. Everybody was posting online, oh, it's a Ponzi, it's a scam, he just scammed everybody, everybody's money's gone, the investors lost. Fuck Saylor. I don't think Saylor's an idiot. I'm not saying he's a genius. I know he definitely has made some mistakes and or caused some problems with investors and with just financial institutions, but institutions have been buying MSTR hand over fist recently. They've been buying a lot of it while it's been going down, and same with Bitcoin. So I think Saylor will continue to buy. I don't think he'll sell anymore Bitcoin. I think it's going to be very slow to buy. The sad part about the capital structure that they have, especially with Stretch down at $80 instead of 100, is they can't really buy as much Bitcoin when it's low. They kind of have to top blast it the entire time, which sounds dumb, but it's just because of how they gain their capital. Essentially, their whole business model is just screwing around with financial instruments and making money off of that and then throwing it into Bitcoin. They're borrowing money now from people because they think money in the future won't be worth as much, which is true, and they think Bitcoin will be worth more, so it won't be as hard to pay them back later. So it sounds like a really dodgy system, but they're not over leveraged. They have leverage, yes, but they are not over leveraged. They still have 10 months worth of dividends in their cash reserve. Obviously that can get lower. The lower that Stretch goes, they have to increase the dividend percent. The yield will go up if Stretch continues to fall, so they do need to figure out something to do with that. And honestly, they might just do nothing, because if Bitcoin truly is starting to mellow out before recovering, they don't really have to do anything because it'll naturally play out. I just don't understand the thesis of MSTR going to zero, what everybody's saying. I feel like that's not possible. I feel like that's exactly what everybody said last time. Last time they're in an even worse situation than they are now. Now they still have positive Bitcoin exposure per share. They have a cash reserve, and they have 4 times the amount of Bitcoin that they had during the last bear market. So with all that being said, MSTR is the only thing I'm putting net new capital into. Every time I put money into my brokerage account, I will be buying MSTR under 100. And this is not financial advice. A lot of you are going to think this is the stupidest thing ever, but since I'm young, it just logically makes sense. I'm willing to lose a few thousand on MSTR if it somehow blows up and Bitcoin goes to zero. I also have a few thousand in Bitcoin, so I'm willing to lose, $10 $10,000 at most of my net worth when I'm 20, compared to when I'm 40. Obviously, I'm not going to be willing to lose any percentage of my net worth. But right now, the value proposition of buying something under $100, and if Bitcoin truly does make new all-time highs and goes on the most parabolic rally ever, with institutional backing and bank backing, institutions like BlackRock are now recommending a 2 to 5% of your portfolio being allocated into Bitcoin. 2 to 5%. 2 to 5% of the current world capital is like trillions, and if we go through a capital expansion cycle like we have every other time we've had like a industrial revolution or agricultural revolution, or you know, the AI and tech revolution, capital has expanded 100x. So if the amount of capital expands 100x again, and Bitcoin gets even 2 to 5% of that expenditure, it will be a multi-trillion dollar. Someone owning $1 million of that would make them quite a great investment, would it not? So there is some logic behind why I'm buying it. I think this could be a 10-bagger if the situation plays out correctly, and I'm willing to take that risk if it doesn't. But yeah, that's all this video is about. I'm gonna be releasing a video about SpaceX probably in the next few days, maybe next week. I think SpaceX is a sham. Honestly, people will look at you dead in the face, or on Twitter or X or whatever, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm buying SpaceX. Haha, let's go IPO." But then they'll look at MSTR and they'll be like, "That's a scam." I think SpaceX losing billions a year and being valued at almost 2 trillion, and then after the IPO it went up to 2 trillion, I think that's a scam. But maybe we're all wrong, because MSTR is down the most money it ever has been. It's down like, I think, 14 billion as of today, which is a shitload, let's be honest. They've never been down that much. But it's unrealized, and it's none of their debt has obligation ties to a specific Bitcoin price. Bitcoin could go to 3,000. None of the debt says, hey, if Bitcoin goes to 3,000, you have to sell it. Like nothing in their capital structure says anything about that. So there's nothing to worry about in my opinion. MSTR may be a great investment looking back in 1 to 3 years, or you know, my money will be gone, and it's no big deal, because then I'll just switch to investing back into VT and Google once I get to a good position size on MSTR. So that's it for the video today. Like and subscribe. Drop a comment what you think. Even if it's a hate comment, I understand. This strategy is not for everyone. This is just a very high risk bet I'm willing to take, because if I can get a 10x in my portfolio just from MSTR being this low, I am perfectly comfortable with taking that risk, simply because of the fact that I believe in Bitcoin. It was nice talking to you all. I'll see you all later. Goodbye.